They condemned the United States military action against Venezuela, which has undoubtedly left a mark. We would say without hesitation that it left an indelible and unforgettable mark. An indelible mark on the people of Venezuela, a nation which never in its long and complex history after achieving its independence had ever been invaded and bombed by any external power or foreign force. The colonial powers, of course, had tried to do so in the past, but they had not succeeded. For example, when Castro blockaded Venezuela, there were attempts, but none resulted in a full-scale invasion or bombing. But this time, it was a direct attack on the territory. We do not know, my dear friends, to what extent this will be or not a wound for Latin Americans or for Venezuelans. The North American government, through the Secretary of State, warns the Cuban regime that its historic donors are already gone, that neither Russia nor Venezuela are going to donate a single cent to keep the Cuban regime afloat. Mexico will continue sending them oil because they have an oil agreement unless the pressure from Trump ends up making Mexico suspend oil shipments to Cuba. And obviously, due to hunger and blackouts, the country collapses, just as Iran is collapsing due to a terrible economic situation in that country, which is heavily sanctioned, whether rightly or wrongly. I am talking about the result. They have a tremendous crisis, and it has almost caused the fall of the government. The good thing is that the Ayatollahs and the religion could be removed from Iran. The bad thing is that it seems the United States wants to put the old monarch's son back in place. In other words, instead of moving towards a democracy as we like it or as we know it, they are going to impose the ancien regime, as the French said during the French Revolution. The old regime, the regime that was overthrown by the Iranian people when they no longer wanted Mr. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was the Shah of Iran. He was overthrown by the people of Iran. Now, the people of Iran overthrew the Ayatollahs that were imposed at that time to put the old regime back in place. That's how they are. That's politics. The United States confiscates the oil tanker Olina in the Caribbean Sea. It is the fifth one. This one was not confiscated. This news report is poorly written, ill-informed. In collaboration with the Venezuelan government, they were rescued because the guys had bailed. They had left without paying. Trump asserts that the interception of the oil tanker was coordinated with the Venezuelan government. I've already told you this. Well, Trump meets with oil executives, announces investments of hundreds of billions of dollars. The indefinite sale of Venezuelan crude oil will be under the absolute control of the United States of America. This is a delicate, complex situation. How long will that last? Until the transition passes and a democratic government arrives that can properly deal with investors in the oil sector. It doesn't seem so because Mr. Trump has said that it will be indefinite. In other words, whoever governs Venezuela in the future, Venezuelan crude oil will be under the control of the United States. I'll leave you with that. I don't know if Jose Antonio Picon has arrived, if he's with us. Can someone help me and tell me if Jose Antonio is with us so I can read the dollar from his writing, because he is the man who responsibly every day. Here is Jose Antonio. The dollar for Tuesday, January 13th. Monday is a bank holiday. It will go up 499 cents, reaching 330 bolivars and 38 cents. The euro will go up to 384 with 33. The pension will drop to 39 cents a month, according to this data that Jose Antonio Picon gives us. The pension disappears completely. Well, terrible. The rise of the dollar impacts the prices of the basic food basket, says this note here in Cabimas, but it's all over Venezuela. It's a shocking thing, the increase in basic products of essential products. As I was saying earlier, this morning I spoke with an agricultural producer and an industrialist, a person I respect a lot, and I had a very good relationship with his father. They tell me, look, we are selling the cattle, all the ranchers, for $2 and $2.50 live, not by the carcass on the hoof. That has to, well, it has to go to the slaughterhouse. The slaughterhouse retains the offal and carefully delivers the animal in carcasses to the distributor, who takes it to the butcher shops. The butcher shop cuts and sells different types of meat, but to go from $2.50 to $19 to $29 in some cases. It seems to me, my dear friends, absurd. And that they have removed the VAT from essential products is even more absurd. We know that the government may need money, but it is getting that money at the expense of the poverty of the Venezuelan people. Fedecamaras Zulia assures that commerce, industry, and primary producers are working completely normally. That's true. The country is at this moment in absolute normality. The part that is not normal is the political country, but the country of the citizens is swallowing bitter pills and acting normally. Well, the 5 Spanish prisoners freed in Venezuela have arrived in Madrid. 22 journalists are still imprisoned in Venezuela. Rick Scott demands the immediate release of all political prisoners. The Committee for the Freedom of Political Prisoners is calling for vigils at the detention centers. They are releasing only 9 political prisoners. Family members are expecting more releases. Well, this is what is happening regarding political prisoners. At this time, we still do not have any definite information about exactly when the 400 planned releases will finally take place. Up to this point, there have only been a total of 11 releases, which means that the vast majority of the scheduled releases have not yet occurred. In crime news, in Barquisimeto, a crash left a motorcyclist dead and his companion seriously injured. A Venezuelan man died during a mine collapse in Colombia. They slit his throat and left his body abandoned near the Colombian-Venezuelan border. A young woman died after a tree branch fell on her in the state of Táchira. The Maracaibo police dismantled a group dedicated to stealing cables from the Christmas lights on Bella Vista Avenue in Maracaibo. 4 people were arrested for the death of a 25-year-old man. Rene Alarcon, a former soccer player from Zulia, was arrested in Florida by ICE. And the Vice President of the United States, regarding the murder of the young American poet who was brutally murdered by ICE agents, said that nothing is going to happen to the individual who killed her because they have federal immunity. They are a kind of attack dog for Donald Trump and his government. They are rabid guys who have no control, who don't have a law to regulate them, who go around. I don't know if they get paid for each immigrant that they stop, but along the way, they are leaving a bitter feeling